The call came at 3:47 p.m., slicing through the noise of the bike shop like a knife. David Reaper Stone was tightening the rear brake on a custom Harley when his phone buzzed violently against a metal table. He almost ignored it until he saw the caller ID. Rachel. His ex-wife never called unless something was wrong. He wiped his hands on a rag and answered. "Rachel? What's—" Her voice wasn't just panicked. It was shattered. "David, she never came home." His stomach dropped. "What do you mean Lily didn't come home? Did she miss the bus?" "No," she sobbed. "The bus driver said she got off at our stop." "David, she got off the bus, but she never made it to the house. She's gone." Gone. The word hollowed him out like a bullet. The distance from the bus stop to Rachel's door was barely 300 feet. A straight path. A safe neighborhood. Quiet. Normal. Nothing bad ever happened there. But normal neighborhoods didn't matter to predators. David didn't remember grabbing his keys. Didn't remember shouting for his VP, Tank, to get the club together. All he remembered was the deafening roar of his bike tearing out of the parking lot as he broke every traffic law between the shop and Rachel's street. By the time he screeched to a stop, 40 steel demons had already arrived, engines growling like war drums. Leather cuts, skull patches, steel-toed boots. They surrounded the house like an army preparing for siege. Rachel ran to him, tears streaking her cheeks, hands shaking. "David." Someone took her. She wouldn't run away. She wouldn't. "I know." He hugged her quickly, firmly. "We'll find her." They started sweeping the area. The bus stop. The bushes. The ditch. Every driveway. Every trash can. 5 minutes later, Snake shouted, "Over here." David sprinted across the yard. There, half hidden in the thick bushes, was a small pink backpack covered in unicorn stickers. Lily's. And worse, far worse, her beloved teddy bear, Mr. Buttons, was nowhere in sight. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. David felt the world tilt. Mr. Buttons wasn't just a toy. He was the bear David had given Lily on her 5th birthday, one he'd secretly modified with a micro-tracker sewn deep behind the plush heart, just in case. Because David was not only a father, he was president of the Steel Demons Motorcycle Club, and he knew damn well what kind of monsters existed in the world. Snake opened the tracking app. A blinked, then moved. "She's on the highway," he announced. "Northbound. Highway 9. About 40 miles out." David's jaw clenched. He knew that territory. Carlos El Lobo Mendez. Cartel lieutenant. Drug runner. No conscience. No rules. David had crossed him last month when Carlos tried to pressure him into using Reaper's Psycho Repair as a distribution point for cocaine shipments. David refused. Carlos smiled, one of those quiet, dangerous smiles, and said they would talk again. Apparently, that talk had arrived. "This is a message," Tank growled. His knuckles were white around the handle of his axe. He took her because he said no. David didn't answer. Rage was boiling so hot inside him, he could barely think. He just grabbed his phone and dialed Carlos directly. 1 ring. 2. Then, "Reaper," Carlos answered cheerfully. "Missing something?" David's voice came out colder than steel. "If you hurt her, I'll burn your entire world down." Carlos snorted. "You threatened my business. Now I threaten your family. Bring me $100,000 and sign your shop over to me, or little Lily disappears forever." David closed his eyes. "Where?" "The old warehouse on Miller Road. Come alone. No games. Or she dies screaming." The line clicked dead. Every man around David waited for his orders. Their faces were hard, their eyes burning with the same fury. "Nobody touches my little girl," David said. "Nobody." They didn't need further instructions. The tracking signal led them not to the warehouse, but to an abandoned building 20 meters away, hidden behind overgrown trees. "Carlos is keeping her somewhere else," Diesel said after scouting the area with binoculars. "Warehouse is an ambush point. He's at least 15 men there, armed heavy." "I don't care if he is 50, David snarled. "We're getting Lily back." But they needed precision. This wasn't a bar fight. This was a cartel kidnapping. Carlos had money, men, and cops in his pocket. And then, just as attention hit a breaking point, a black sedan rolled up to the club's makeshift staging area. Every biker instantly raised a gun. Detective Tom Miller stepped out with his hands up. "Wait," he yelled. "Just hear me out." Tank stormed toward him. "You better have one hell of a reason for showing your face, cop." Miller swallowed hard and tossed his badge onto the asphalt. "I'm not here as a cop," he said. "I'm here as a father, one who lost his partner to Carlos last year. He had him murdered and staged as suicide." David narrowed his eyes. "Why should we trust you?" Miller opened a folder and spread out photographs across the hood of his sedan. "Because Carlos wasn't just after Lily. He's holding 14 other kids," Miller said, "all inside that building." The world stopped. A low, murderous vibration rolled through the bikers. Men cursed. Others punched the air. Some kicked gravel, so hard it ricocheted like bullets. "He's starting a trafficking ring," Miller continued. "I've been building a case for 2 years, but his lawyers always get him free. The system won't stop him." David looked at the detective. For the first time, he didn't see a badge. He saw a grieving man who'd been denied justice. "Then we stop him our way," David said, and so the plan began. David would go to the warehouse alone. He would let Carlos believe he was walking into a trap. Meanwhile, the rest of the Steel Demons would split into 3 squads, approaching the real building from multiple angles. A coordinated strike. Quiet, fast, lethal. If Carlos wanted a war, he was going to get a war he could never walk away from. As the sun dipped below the trees, David mounted his bike. His brothers watched silently. No jokes, no posturing, just raw, shared fury. Rachel stood on the porch hugging herself, trembling, eyes swollen. David rode up and grabbed her hand. "I'll bring her home," he whispered. "I swear it." Then he revved the engine and rode toward the warehouse, alone, just as Carlos demanded. But miles behind him, in the shadows of the highway, 40 Steel Demons took back roads, dirt paths, and hidden trails toward the building where Lily and the other children were held. And they weren't going alone. By the time David reached the warehouse, the air vibrated with sound. The distant thunder of engines. Not 40, not 50, 200. Bikers from across 3 states. Clubs that hated each other, clubs that fought each other, had all united for one cause: to save children. David rode into hell with an army behind him, and the cartel had no idea what was coming. The warehouse loomed in the fading light, its rusted metal siding catching streaks of dying orange sun. David rolled his bike to a slow stop, boots crunching on gravel. The place smelled like oil, rot, and bloodshed waiting to happen. Carlos, El Lobo. Mendez stepped out of the shadows with 20 armed men, each gripping rifles like hunters waiting for their kill. Carlos grinned. "Amazing. You really came alone, Reaper." David kept his chin high, voice measured. "Where's my daughter?" Carlos shrugged. "Safe. For now. But business first." "Money?" David met his eyes with ice. "Did you really think I'd pay you?" Carlos's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, just long enough for David to let his own lips curl upward. "Did I?" David repeated quietly. "Come alone." The engines hit, like a thunderstorm from hell. 200 motorcycles roaring into existence, shaking the earth itself. Headlights flared in the distance like an approaching river of fire. Carlos spun around. Bikers appeared from every direction. Steel Demons, Iron Serpents, Widow Sons, Valkyrie Riders. Clubs that normally wouldn't share the same parking lot were now united in one singular, unstoppable purpose. Carlos blanched. "You brought an army to a business negotiation?" "This stopped being business the second you touched my kid," David said, "and the moment you took other people's kids. You can't prove anything." Carlos snapped. David stepped closer until their faces were inches apart. "We don't need to prove it. We just need to know it." Carlos stepped back, rage and fear battling inside him. "Shoot him," he ordered. None of his men moved, because behind David, the line of bikers is spread wide, guns drawn, chains wrapped around fists, machetes glinting. 200 men, and women ready to commit righteous violence. Carlos cursed under his breath. Fine. You want the girl? Follow me. But David didn't need to, because at that very same moment, on the other side of the property, Tank, Diesel, Snake, Detective Miller, and 30 steel demons were already storming the real building, the abandoned one where the teddy bear's tracker had led them. The moment they kicked in the door, the smell hit them. Sweat, rot, fear. Then they saw them, 14 children, tied, dirty, terrified, ages between 6 and 12. Tank's hands shook with fury. These sick bastards. Lily sat in the corner, clutching Mr. Buttons so tight her knuckles were white. When she saw Tank, her eyes widened with desperate relief. Tank, she whispered. He knelt and smiled gently, voice soft despite the rage burning in him. Daddy's friends are here, sweetheart. You're safe now. Snake and Diesel freed the kids as fast as they could, comforting them, giving them water, wrapping them in spare jackets. Some cried silently. Others clung to the bikers as if they were lifelines. Detective Miller found a small boy who had been missing for 3 weeks. The detective froze, staring at him with heartbreak and fury intertwined. It's okay, Miller whispered. We've got you. But outside, trouble was coming. Boss! Diesel shouted. We got cartel reinforcements, 30 men, trucks, heavy weapons coming fast. Tank grinned, cracking his knuckles. Good. Saves us the drive. And then the world erupted. The steel demons were no strangers to violence. But this was different. This was righteous fury unleashed. Fathers and mothers and warriors fighting not for territory or pride, but for children who had no one else. Gunfire ripped through the air. Bikers charged like a human tidal wave. The cartel's line broke instantly under the force of 200 leather-clad demons who fought like they had fire in their bones. Engines revved. Chains swung. Bullets screamed. The battle lasted minutes, not hours. And when it finally fell silent, 50 cartel soldiers lay beaten, tied, or unconscious. None of the children were touched. And Carlos? Carlos tried to run. David caught him. He dragged the cartel lieutenant into an empty warehouse, away from the others. The door slammed shut behind them. Carlos stumbled back, pleading, Reaper, listen. I have money. Millions. I'll give you everything. Cars, guns, territory. Anything you want. David didn't speak. He just stepped closer, fists clenched. You took my daughter, David said finally, voice low and trembled with controlled rage. You put her in a cage. She's alive. Carlos screamed. I didn't hurt her. You were going to sell her, David replied. Carlos's silence was an admission. What happened next? No one ever knew the details. But people heard. For an entire hour, the warehouse echoed with screams, raw, agonized, unending. Men outside, hardened bikers who had seen wars and death, looked away. Some prayed quietly. When David finally emerged, his knuckles were shredded, shirt torn, chest heaving. Carlos lay inside, still alive, but broken beyond repair, sobbing for mercy. David didn't look at him again. Call 911, he told Tank. Tell him we found the kids and the kidnapper. When police arrived, they found 15 children alive, 30 cartel members zip-tied and groaning. Carlos Mendez confessing to every crime imaginable, begging for protective custody. Detective Miller met David beside the ambulances. What did you do to him? David wiped blood off his hands. I showed him what fathers do to men who hurt children. Inside the building, agents discovered drugs, weapons, ledgers, payoffs, routes, a full trafficking network laid bare. It was enough evidence to bury a cartel. Carlos was sentenced to life without parole, abandoned by his organization. Word spread in prison about what he had done. Other inmates, fathers, uncles, taught him their own lessons. He survived, technically, but spent the rest of his life paralyzed, tube-fed, wishing for death. Lily, though physically unharmed, suffered nightmares for months. Every night, 2 steel demons guarded Rachel's house. Bikes parked like sentries until the nightmare stopped. The other 14 families were reunited with their children. Clubs across the state adopted them, bringing meals, fixing homes, protecting them. One boy whose parents had died was taken in by the steel demons themselves. He became their youngest road tech, growing up under protection of men who understood what losing everything felt like. Detective Miller quit the force. The system had failed him too many times. He became a private investigator specializing in missing children, often working with biker clubs who trusted him now with their lives. 3 months later, another drug dealer tried to move into Carlos's territory. He found his drugs burned, his money gone, and 4 words spray painted on the wall. "We're watching. Touch a child and die." He left the county that night. The warehouse where the kids had been held was demolished. In its place, the bikers built a playground, bright colors, swings, slides, benches, a place for kids to be kids again. Lily still carries Mr. Buttons everywhere. The tracker is still inside. So is a panic button. Just in case? Rachel asked the day David told her. David shook his head. No, never again. Over the next 5 years, the Steel Demon saved 87 children. Not every rescue ended in celebration, but every predator learned the same thing. You can hide from the police. You can hide from the courts. But you can't hide from a biker who wants his child safe. As for Carlos, barely clinging to life in a prison infirmary, every year he received a letter containing a single photo. Lily, growing up strong, smiling, protected by 200 men in leather, and 4 words. She survived. You won't. Prison guards reported that Carlos often cried when the letters came, begging for a death that never arrived. He lived in constant fear, constant regret, constant agony. Exactly as David intended. The FBI investigated the biker cartel war. Officially, it was ruled self-defense. Unofficially, one agent shook David's hand. You saved 14 kids, he said. That's all that matters. Now 13 years old, Lily remembers little of the kidnapping, a mercy. But she knows one thing. She is protected. Fiercely. Absolutely. Forever. Carlos once controlled an empire. Money, soldiers, guns, influence. He thought that made him untouchable. But he learned the truth the hard way. No one is untouchable when they take a biker's daughter.